We are live for another Mindset Monday. Today, we're just going to close our eyes and meditate for the next 30 minutes here on YouTube. I'm just kidding. Today, I'm going to tell you your horoscopes, and then we'll do some magic. Then, after magic, we'll do some meditation and say some spells and incantations. And that way, we can see if that pretty waitress at the local dive will want to sleep with you because you did the love spell and that sort of thing. Or maybe we could do the secret and do some more meditations and and just think about money all day long, but don't do any actual action to get you the money though. Just think about it. That's the secret, right? We'll get some money that way. Yeah, there's a lot of grifts and a lot of BS out there, and I try to cut through that stuff here on this channel, but I'm not like some skeptics, source that just does it, that's here to debunk things. Yeah, here to debunk every possible practice for improving yourself. That's not what we're here to do, but we are here to make improvements and changes on ourselves, and of course better our lives, better our relationships, all that sort of thing. And most of my audience here is you guys as men trying to be better men, right? Trying to be more alpha, trying to have better control over your life, that sort of thing. Well, meditating is one of those things that will give you that level of control and can institute substantial change. I'm kind of letting about another minute or so go by. We're about 5 o'clock on a Monday here, maybe a little later than that. Yeah, we're right at 5. So yeah, trying different time slots too in between consultation sessions and helping dudes out. You guys got any questions, throw them in the chat. Seems like I get a lot more people by this 2 minutes in anyway. Usually when I do it in the morning or afternoon. So maybe 5 o'clock during people's commute time isn't the time for me to be on YouTube. Well, that's okay. We'll get right into it then. I don't have too many people in the chat today. Not a big deal. It just means it'll be a shorter video. All right. So we're going to think about meditation is I need you to, is two things I want you to think about. One is your place or your sense of self and your consciousness in the world. And the other one is brainwaves. So those are two aspects of meditation that we need to explore here because it's really a key to making any substantial changes. All right. Oh yeah, I got my European brothers out there. 2300 over there in Sweden. Hell yeah. So not everybody's Eastern time, that's for sure. But Samuel says meditation I've been doing it for a few months. It seems to make me clearer in the day, better at breathing. Don't know how beneficial it is. Well, we're going to get into it. Okay. And so now there's different activities and ways of doing consciousness with the meditation activity. We're not going to get too much in the weeds in this little short video here, but here's what it is. You got to picture your brain is mostly reactive during the day. So 99%, or maybe 95%, or whoever knows, but most of your actions and thoughts are actually habitual. Okay. They exist in the unconscious mind. There are things that you're not really conscious of, things down to your body language, your mental state, your behaviors. You guys have probably already heard that before, that most of your behaviors day in, day out is basically a habit, right? Or habitual. Okay. Now let's think of somebody who, let's say, is a really high value person who produces a lot. Let's say you want to become a billionaire. All right. And you want to be a self-made billionaire. Well, the person who became that self-made billionaire had a certain subset of thoughts and behaviors and ways that they reacted to the world. That's different than the way maybe you or I are reacting to the world. Okay. And the thing is, you can't really tap into a different way of reacting to the world than you already are when you're in a reactive state. All right. So here's what I mean. Most of you guys are, your consciousness is in your low or high beta brainwave state. Okay. high beta or really high beta states, you're shifting into a fight or flight mode. All right. So your neuro system is, oh, I'm just reading some of these other things. Anyway, so yeah, your neurological system is just not prepared to take in new information or to learn. Your neurological system is basically responding or reacting. If you're being chased by a predator, okay, back in hunter-gatherer times, let's say, you're reacting to that. You're not trying to be creative or learn or plan or figure out a better way of doing something or being in charge even, or your the environment, which is get out of danger, right? And so most of the way that you're responding and reacting, it may not be running from a predator, although some people who are really in a high anxiety state, who have a lot of negativity, who get angry all the time, who just have a lot of that stuff bogging them down, their brain waves are literally in at high beta state all the time. They're reacting to the environment like it's all the time. Okay. A simple way to put somebody in that mind state is simply make a political statement on Facebook, right? All the people that disagree, even though there's no saber-toothed tiger chasing them, right? They will get into a reactive, high beta brainwave state because their worldview is now challenged and they rely on their worldview for survival. And then they will respond in a manner that demonstrates that they're not open to receiving or taking in new information, right? They're not open to learning. When I mean learning, I mean behavioral learning, as well as picking up new information in a logical, intellectual format. They're not open to adapting or adopting new or different behaviors. Their only concern is survival, which means using what existing behaviors and thoughts and abilities that you have in order to handle or solve the environment around you. And so when you're highly conscious and in the environment, okay, your sense of self, you're very self conscious in your environment, then you can only behave how you are in your current state. So if you're trying to, let's say, be a billionaire, right? Well, you need to be able to change your behaviors, okay, to be more like the person who could make that kind of an impact. But instead, you're here right now. Well, if you're constantly reacting to the environment due to your brainwaves being in a reactive state, then to change into somebody who could be this highly productive person that could make, let's say, billions of dollars and lead people into, you know, creating that wealth for them, to be that person, for example, and I'm no billionaire, so hey, I'm in this with you guys, okay? But this is just the brainwave in the brain change discussion about it, right? Is that you can't change or alter yourself to be the person that you want to be when you're in the reactive state that you are. So like I'll have to put books someone's asking me for a book recommendation. I read stuff and then I like don't remember like the titles and the authors as well necessarily for those things. So I'll have to figure out what I've read on the topic and provide you guys resources. Okay. But this isn't a fucking book report. You know what I mean? So just listen. Right? But I'll have to go backwards and do that. That's a flaw that I have. And that's just because, I've collected this knowledge over years of understanding research and stuff like that. And I'll have to tap into it, but again, this isn't a book report. So this is me just giving you information. So take it in and I will, in the comments later, not the comments, but the fucking description in the video, I'll have to put some book references for you when it comes to this stuff, but not easy to find. If you're wondering where I got this information from, though, I mean, it started when I was doing stuff with the military and with the special operations community and got into sports psychology because there were some sports psychologists and psychologists that were on staff and doing different stuff with us. And for most of the soldiers, a lot of them just would have sort of, sat into the class and then went on to the next thing. But I got really interested in it okay, and interested in, basically how to change your brain and your psychology to perform better. And I started talking and interacting with them more. I mean, I do have some grad school with psychology, so that's another thing altogether. But this is where I really got into it with the military and figuring out performance and basically what amounts to sports psychology or combat psychology. And then I got in touch with people at Harvard over in the the neurology department, and they were doing research on transcendental meditation. And anyway, we gone into a whole thing about utilizing meditation to change your brain, change your brain waves, change your neuroceptor response, all kinds of stuff, And so this is where I get this stuff from. But there are books out there that are pretty decent. Some that are very practical, but I don't have those titles, with me right now. So anyway, that being said, getting back into the reason why you do this. So most of you guys, your sense of self is with your current behavior now in your current environment, and it's habitual. So you wake up in the morning, let's say you turn your phone on, you go through your messages, which is, or whatever, you scroll your social media accounts. You're looking for information that's confirming your current biases, usually without realizing you're doing this, of course. You're looking at information that confirms your current biases and beliefs and systems of thought, interacting with this person or that person on social media. And I'm just using social media as an example, but this could be office discussions, or this could be a variety of things that you do, throughout the day, interacting with your family in the morning, whatever. But social media is usually a pretty good indicator, easy example, because most people do this. So you read an article that's interesting to you, which is you in response to your own environment, right? Let's say you see someone says something you don't agree with. Well, you don't agree with it. It's you responding to your current environment. Everything you're doing is giving you a response, and it's you and it's confirming your current state of being, whether you like it or not. Okay. And so you're confirming your current state of being consciously throughout the day with your input. And so you're not really directing or making any sort of change at that point. And the change you do is going to be very slow and very reactive, and oftentimes will take time due to rebuilding a new habit. Now, if you want to institute change faster, you remove yourself from the environment in that state of being in your unconscious and with your mind. So when you meditate and you shut off stimulation from the outside world, and you pare down just being conscious with what's in your own mind, or just being conscious with yourself, whether it's a focused meditation on a particular thought or feeling, or whether it's a striving for no mindedness or no thought at all, okay, you are focusing inward on what's going on, independent of time, space, reality, all of the other stimulus that's around you. So from there, you can recondition or move yourself into a different state of being. All right. Because now you're no longer just confirming all your thoughts, habits, behaviors. So let's say you're ordinary guy Joe, and you want to be billionaire guy. We'll say, I don't know. What's a good name of give me a name of a billionaire. Elon. Okay. You want to go from Joe to Elon. All right. Well, Elon, in the process of becoming Elon, had to adopt a different state of being and consciousness and a way of thinking. His way of living his life and thinking now, and what he did to get there, is far different from where you're at now. So doing the same thing over and over again, just habitually responding to the environment in the same way with the same thoughts, feelings, reactions, or whatever, or trying to change it with your conscious mind, which means you're still getting all of this information from the outside world, confirming your bias, and now you're just trying to fight against it. It's like trying to swim uphill, trying to to fight against developing different habits, different beliefs, whatever, and your brain constantly being in that high to mid or even low beta state, that makes it so change just doesn't happen inside of yourself, in your mind, and your habits quite so quickly. Any change that you make, you're having to really fight and challenge yourself to move into that, right? And so that's what you're doing most of the time. Now, when you do something like meditation, you're taking yourself out of the environment and all of that confirmation bias for who you really are. So if you're Joe the loser, not that you're a loser, but you know what I'm saying, you're Joe the loser, right? Let's say that's you. And all of the world is confirming that you're Joe the loser. Well, you take yourself, you begin a practice of taking yourself out of the environment of being Joe the loser. And now you're just Joe. Okay. Well, just Joe can now build himself and do focused work to become a different Joe. You see what I mean? And so you practice that on a daily or on a regular basis. Joe no longer is Joe the loser anymore. Joe starts to become a different Joe, both in a way of his thoughts, how he responds to the outside world around him through his emotions and his thoughts. The way that he thinks, the way that he responds emotionally, the way that he interacts with the outside world becomes different. Maybe it becomes more like Elon the billionaire. Okay. When we try to model after somebody, that's we're trying to become more like, have better thoughts and behaviors, not because we want to be that person, but we want to be more like that person or have that person's success versus where we're currently at, right? We want to be a different version of ourselves. Well, if you want to be a different version of yourself, one of the quickest ways to get there is to do this practice of taking yourself out of the environment, your own consciousness, away from, okay, what's going on around you and the constant confirmation bias of who you are, which can be good and bad, right? But here's the problem. If you want to institute change and rapid change and do things a little bit differently and better, you want to be that, let's say, more alpha guy, the better guy in your relationship. Somebody asked about negative thoughts. They keep coming back. Well, if you keep coming into this exercise and you start becoming better and different, you can start changing those thoughts. Okay. If you start doing a practice of taking those negative thoughts when they come, reinterpreting them and spitting them out into something different, then you start to practice and you start to change. And it's just like weightlifting, just like doing fitness for your body. You know, you start putting resistance and you start doing exercise on your body starts changing, right? If you don't put exercise into your body changes anyways, doesn't it? Just for the worse. Well, it's actually the same thing for your mind. And everything you do all day long, okay, at rest and awake, is changing your mind. It's just doing it habitually and fighting for homeostasis and making small changes, or it's perpetuating bad behavior, or it's perpetuating or expanding upon good behavior. You know what I mean? Good reactions. You're either making improvements or you're stagnantly, becoming more and more dysfunctional, right? But we're always changing, and sometimes those changes are minuscule and let's say not impacting, but sometimes the changes can be very impacting. Well, when you take your mind out of the environment and you sit with your mind in that in your own consciousness, away from that confirmation bias of all these things around you, now you can start changing your state, changing your emotional reactions to things, changing the way you think, changing the way you behave. And next thing you know, you start behaving like a different Joe, and maybe more like that billionaire Elon. All right. And it happens a lot more rapidly or faster. And so that's where meditation helps. The other piece of this is there's a brainwave piece, and the simple act of taking your brainwaves from a mid, let's say, level or even high beta state, and through breathing and through calming your mind, you bring yourself into an alpha state. Okay, so alpha brainwave state, An alpha brainwave state is where you're aware of the outside world, but you're also aware of your internal reactions to the outside world, and then you can direct those reactions accordingly. All right. An alpha state is a state of learning and a state of adaptation. So you can adapt better to the stimulus around you in an alpha brainwave state. A high beta state is not for adaptation, it's for survival. Okay, those are two different things. And so you're not wanting to make any changes in a beta state. You're wanting to use what's already there to function. All right. But we're not, unless we are in a fight or flight situation, okay, we're not wanting to just function and survive. We are wanting to adapt and lead ourselves to better outcomes. Most of the time that you make a bad decision, you were in a mid to high beta state when you did it. Your brain waves were not open to taking in new information. You were not open to learning. You were not open to adapting or deciding consciously how you wanted your emotions even to develop for a situation. Most of the time, you're in that beta state, you're simply trying to survive and you're reacting to what's going on around you with no openness to change or adjustment. And so that is where the the meditation exercise, what that does for you, okay, it brings your brain waves down, puts you in a calmer alpha state, and you have a sense of self, and you sustain that state for a while. And by sustaining that state, you can also focus your mind and do visualization exercises to put you into a different state of being, literally into being a different version of yourself, one that's better. So through meditation, you can move yourself into the direction you want to go. Now, it takes time, it takes effort, it's not easy. So just like going to the gym, though, right? I'm not going to see my results after one really good workout. I'm going to have to work out for a few months, right? Before I really start seeing it. Same with daily practices of meditation. You're going to see results, but it takes some time. But what you'll notice then is over time, though, your state of being, your behavior, the things that are in your unconscious, okay, that are those behavioral reactions and emotional reactions to things, start changing. You start showing up differently. You start being better. You start seeing yourself as a better and in doing life in a better way. You know what I mean? So I can think about it when I think about entrepreneurship. When I first started in, there was a certain set of habits and behaviors I had, and without thinking about it, just surrounding myself with successful people and learning and relearning habits and behaviors, the whole state of being and seeing the world and behaving within the world changed as I became more successful, right? Now, those are some things that were on the conscious action side, and you always have to do the right action to make things happen. But on the mental fitness side, you can make those changes happen a lot faster. All right. You're not just swimming uphill. You're not just working against yourself. If you're constantly if you're constantly doing this work in a conscious manner without tapping into the unconscious and your mental states and in states of being, what you're doing is you're constantly fighting against that outside world that is confirming your current state of being, not supporting a new or different state of being. You see what I'm saying? So hopefully that makes sense. And that's where meditation helps institute a massive amount of change. And so some of you guys who are trying to become more outcome independent, trying to have a better reaction with your chick, trying to have a better reaction with, the outside world, with your boss, with your clients, whatever, you're trying to behave differently. You want to tap into more of an alpha mindset and more of an alpha way of being and be that leader. Be unfazed, those things. Meditation is one of those things that'll get you there in a pretty short amount of time, but it does take some work. So I say short amount of time, I'm not saying 10 years, but maybe a few weeks to a few months, though, you'll start seeing some serious changes, Now, that's in a general sense, of course. There's different ways of doing it. All right. There's different activities that you want to do. Clients who work with me on a one-on-one sessions, I might give them an activity or set of activities or actions that targets them, You know what I mean? That's going to give them the best results, because what might work the best for you and what changes you're trying to make and how your brain is and how you're reacting to the world might not be the same thing that works for somebody else, right? And so there's different combinations of things always. Um, and so that's answering a question of the different types of meditations. Yeah, there are different types, and each type of meditation sort of focuses on or targets a different thing that we're trying to get the brain and the behaviors, to do, right? We're trying to get either a different thought process, emotional reaction, or a different set of behaviors with different types of meditation. And they can all be effective, or they're either less effective or more effective. But that's going to depend on the person and what they're trying to achieve or accomplish, you know. So I'm reading more comments here. Thanks guys for the comments and the likes and all that stuff. If you haven't hit the like button, jam on that for me, please. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Gave me a breakthrough. So a lot of good testimonies in the chats about people who made some breakthroughs and all that. Yeah, man. Hey, man, we do got to get on Myron's show, Don DeMarco. Yeah, bro. Myron's the man, dude. We can definitely get on that show. I'd love to be on there. It'd be good. We all get caught up in our own things, creating our own content and doing our own stuff. And I separate myself pretty well from what's going on in the internet world. But Myron's the man. I do like his podcast is pretty cool when I get a chance to catch it, man. So we can definitely do that. Meditation has helped a ton with productivity. Yeah, it does. And so someone just wrote Chad ? Anyway, so yeah, I don't a lot of things on getting rid of the negative thoughts. So I guess I'll give some tips on that real quick before I go. You can do something that I've borrowed more or less from. It's a mindfulness activity, borrowed from dialectical behavioral therapy, but dialectical behavioral therapy stole this from other mindfulness and meditation activities and stuff anyway. But it's about being conscious of your negative thoughts. So what you want to do is if you want to get rid of negative thoughts, start tracking them. All right. So that's the first thing. Tracking makes you conscious of what's going on instead of letting it be habitual and unconscious. So if you have negative thoughts throughout the day, keep a little journal or on your notes on your phone and mark when they happen. Put a timestamp on it and write what the negative thoughts are. And when you get an opportunity, okay, do I smoke cigarettes? Someone just asked. I'm going to let my thoughts. I smoke cigars, bro. I don't smoke cigarettes. So anyway, when you get I do cigars because I enjoy cigars. That's why. It's not like I can't quit cigars or something, like whatever. And so anyways, so you track your activity by marking what the negative thought is. All right. Timestamp, write the intensity too, like 0 to 10. What's the intensity? All right. And then what you want to do is you want to challenge that negative thought. So what meaning did you give the thing that triggered the negative thought? What meaning did you give that thing that caused a negative thought? What was the meaning you put behind it? Then I want you to challenge it. How could I think of this thing differently? So I put, this person said this, I felt like they were being intentionally insulting to me, or maybe they were trying to screw me over or whatever. What's a different way of thinking of that? What's a way that maybe challenges this belief behind what's happening? And then how do I want to reframe the thought? How do I want to take that thought and make it different? And so just by doing this activity throughout the day, you'll start to challenge those thoughts, because right now, if you have a bunch of negative thoughts, they're habitual. All right. So what you do most of the day is habitual. So you start having negative thoughts. Well, now that's a habit of having negative thoughts, you see? And so now you've developed a habit of having negative thoughts. It's just like if I habitually bite my nails, or if I habitually, anything you do can be a habit. So now you're jamming this intrusive negative thoughts. Let's see, sometimes my negative thoughts get so intrusive, I've got to run 5 miles to beat it out of me. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So this is, they can become intrusive. They can just start. And some of this too could be very tired or broken serotonin receptors. That's another thing that meditation can do is repair your neuroreceptors. If your neuroreceptors are tired, okay, meaning that, all right, so serotonin makes you feel happy and good and sort of fulfilled, safe in the world. If those receptors get tired, like that happens with PTSD, with people with PTSD, is they have less, the receptors are basically get tired easier because of the overstimulus they've gone through. And so if that's the case, then you'll be put in a negative headspace like much more quickly, much more easily than, let's say, somebody else. And it's hard for you to de-stress. So doing meditation will help you repair those receptors. You give those receptors a rest and actually, through neuroplasticity, start to make those repairs. And there's things you can do nutritionally, okay, through supplementation as well to repair neuroreceptors. All right. So that could be a thing with the negative thoughts as well. But essentially, it's a habit, though. And to break the habit, you start tracking it and addressing it. If I have a bad habit of, let's say, eating, I don't know, really bad food or something, and I'm trying to be on a diet, as soon as I get on a diet program, I start tracking my food. I become conscious of it now, right? And then once you become conscious of something, you start naturally doing something to combat that. And so that's what we're looking at with negative thoughts. That's the beginning phases anyway. There's a lot more to do depending on how intrusive and how bad negative thoughts are. But like those things, I mean, that's going to be a much longer video than I can do today. You know what I mean? And it's going to vary per person. What's causing negative thoughts? Is it trauma? Is it just simple habit? Or, is it a neuroreceptor problem like with PTSD patients? Or what is the reason for the negative thoughts? So this might be very individual. Maybe something in your life is screwed up and needs to change, and that's why the negative thoughts there. It has nothing to do more than that. There's lots of reasons why. So there's different ways of attacking the problem, but a begin stage of it, though, is to start tracking and start challenging those beliefs, challenging those limiting beliefs. And by consciously doing that, and then later on, you can do that in meditation, clear your head, clear your thoughts for like 10 minutes, then spend 10 or 20 minutes just thinking about changing those rehearsing, meaning the stimulus happens, interpreting that stimulus in a different way and having a different or better thought about it, and start actually practicing in your brain, rehearsing, having better thoughts in your environment. All right. There's a saying from one of my very famous, in my opinion, famous anyway, one of my favorite law enforcement and firearms trainers. He says, we don't rise to our expectations. We fall to our level of training. And so in your brain, you actually have to train responses that you want and train stuff. So it becomes a trained response, right? Versus just go, man, I wish I could behave differently. All right. Wishing it and wanting it isn't going to change it. You have to actually train it somehow. And since you can't just create artificial stimulus all the time to change it, a way to practice and train a response is to train it in your head. Anyway, my camera just decided to be stupid. So back to it. Yeah. What else we got? Boy. Do you believe that meditation helps clear that stream of conscious bad negative thoughts to positive? Mm-hmm. Right. Because you're reacting. When you're reacting to the world, in fact, when you're reacting and your brainwaves are in a high beta state, you're going to think of the worst possible response. Okay, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go to the worst possible response so that you can try to mitigate that danger. All right, that's what being reactive is. So when you're reactive, and think of that, how detrimental that could be. Let's say if you're trying to start a business, all right, you got to make a bunch of sales calls to sell some widgets because you're starting a business, right? And then you're, in a reactive state, nervous about, let's say, got a lot of stressors, nervous about not making any money, we're nervous about the business failing, so on and so forth. You're in a reactive state, right? And so you're going to get a string of negative thoughts and possibilities about failure regarding this business. And then that's going to drive your behavior forward. Now, some of those behaviors may be, in a panic, you're going to, make some sales calls and react. But some of those behaviors are going to be really unproductive as well. You know what I mean? Maybe you're going to procrastinate on certain things that you need to do to drive your business forward as well, for example. So, I mean, there's a lot of bad, bad potential results here when you're in a reactive state. So when that's the, and so again, reactive state, you're going to think of the worst possible consequences for things so you can try to avoid those consequences, but that doesn't put you in a different state of being to do better and to be better. That only keeps you in the same spot that you're in, homeostasis. Okay, when you're in survival mode, you're just trying not to lose, right? You're trying not to lose something, not lose your spot or where you're at. If I'm in a survival mode, I'm trying not to get buried and become bankrupt. I'm not necessarily becoming wealthy. You see what I'm saying? So if you want to put yourself in a state of becoming wealthy versus becoming bankrupt, you have to put your mind in a state of adaptability and learning. And that means you take those brain waves and all that stress and you de-stress, you get rid of the stress, and you come down to that high alpha state where you're conscious of your environment and choices you need to make, but you're more creative, you're not fearful, and you're able to direct yourself to where you want to go. And meditation does that for you. You're behaving reactively, you're thinking reactively, and then you calm your mind or you remove the stimulus and those brain waves start to come down. And now your brain waves are actually in a state where you can produce and adapt. Because again, were we trying just not to be bankrupt, or are we trying to be wealthy? All right, to use the entrepreneur example. And so that's what that does for you. So yes, meditation does clear those thoughts for you. See what else? Do you think failing to deal with negative thoughts can lead to becoming sick in the head? Yeah, it can become sick in the head and in the body. They're finding you can actually be more susceptible to disease through stress, ironically. Process a one-on-one consultation. Send me an email. So link in the description of the video, or just pick one of my other videos because I'm gonna have to go backwards and fill in the description. I always have my email address here. I'll write my email address in the chat. All right. So there we go. Hit enter on that. Did it work? Yeah, so there's my apxmindset@gmail.com. That's my email address. If you're interested in a consultation with me, somebody asked this, send me an email. I'll send you an email in return. That'll have all of like the new client information that'll discuss rates, policies, and what to expect in a consultation. Jerry, can I start over? Yeah, I'm going to start from the beginning. No, I can't start over, Jerry. You're going to have to watch the replay. 25 years old, and I feel testosterone levels is not talked about enough with energy levels, brain fog. Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. I mean, testosterone levels and hormone levels need to be optimized for sure. With your military background, I missed the first question. So, Mark, with my military background, on what testosterone levels? Yeah, I mean, T levels and hormone levels are important. It's not talked about enough. Absolutely. But doing self-care and stuff will keep your T levels healthy and optimal. If you're getting enough sleep, a good diet, a good exercise program will optimize your hormone levels. You know what I mean? But if you're deficient or you think you're deficient, get a blood test and talk to a doctor for sure. If you're older, as in, near or older than 40, you should be getting your blood tested every year, in my opinion, to see where you're deficient. Guys, want a quick little tip here on raising your T levels is to make sure your vitamin D is optimized. Everyone should be taking vitamin D. Take vitamin D3, 5,000 to 10,000 IUs, a day. Vitamin D is a precursor to testosterone production, and most of us are deficient in vitamin D, and that's why testosterone levels are lower now than they were, 100 years ago. The reason they think that is because people are outside a lot less. So there's less being outside, less vitamin D, and so therefore less testosterone production. So you want to boost it naturally. Yeah, zinc is good too, but you want to boost it naturally, you need your vitamin D. You're probably not deficient in zinc though. Okay, zinc is good. It's a good supplement or whatever, but you probably, unless you're deficient in it, probably not a big deal. But D though, most of us are deficient in D. Does it work with vitamins? Because Rich said it only works with the oral spray. Yeah, it works with vitamins. D? No, it works with vitamins. Now, D is a real easy thing to supplement. No, really, it's not, it's just over the counter, it's cheap and easy. I've not heard or dealt with, or, from my experts that I've gone to, any worry about the quality of your vitamin D supplement. Cool. Well, we're at the 40-minute mark. That's going to wrap it up, but I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the support. Yes, I do. Hey, yes, Sven, I do post these live streams, dude. I'm gonna it'll post, like, I don't know, it should still be up. I don't know how long it takes YouTube to process it, but it's I always leave these up there. So these little live streams I'm doing, they're not really announced. They're usually on a Monday at some point in between my appointment schedule. If you can get on, cool. If not, yes, you can catch the replay. But when I do these things, and I'm looking at, I do them at least every Monday is what I go for. Obviously I answer questions in the chat, stuff like that. It's an opportunity for us to interact a little bit. And sometimes I can get some questions for you answered. That's, been on your mind or whatever. So anyway, thanks again, guys, for the support. Get on the email list if you're not on it. In the description of the video at some point, I'll put it in there. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. All right, guys. Peace out.